Hello, I'm Andy, and I also liked George Michael very much, and then wondered why should George Michael have to die on the 25th of December 2016. So I looked up his date of birth, and then I looked up his time of birth, and I found the reason. And the reason is that the zodiac sign of his date of birth, which is Cancer, and the zodiac sign of his time of birth is also Cancer. So he's in Cancer twice. And that brings extreme goodness at times in a person's life or extreme badness, because the planets at the date of birth and the planets at the time of birth will be the same. So they double up goodness or they double up badness. His age of 53, there was a cycle, a very short 2-year cycle, which would be the age of 53 and 54. And I find that people in Cancer have two struggles which are quite strong. And these can be at the age of 53 and 54 or 62 and 63 of age. Now, in a normal horoscope, the date of birth, zodiac sign, may be Cancer or Taurus or Aries or whatever, and the time of birth, horoscope, will be different. So there is a play of middleness in a horoscope. There will be less extremes, whether in ups and downs, whether in behavior patterns. And so we call these types of horoscopes where the date of birth and the time of birth are different in zodiac signs more normal than if they are the same. Now, what happened to George Michael was that during the ages of 53 and 54, four extreme planets came into play. And these planets, Saturn, Mars, Uranus and Mercury, brought about difficulties for him. The negative planets from the time of his birth onwards, both in the time of birth and date of birth, have brought extremes from Jupiter, the planet Jupiter, the planet of excess. So obesity would be seen to the extreme. A tendency to dominate will be seen to the extreme. Then the planet Saturn would have also behaved extremely, and this would have produced extremeness of desperation or depression, and also difficulties in comprehending what fate is doing to him. And then the planet Mars would bring extremeness of aggression at times, and this would of course lead to many health problems as well. The planets who rule the date of birth are considered the first horoscope, and the planets that rule the time of birth would be the second horoscope. And in my experience, I've had clients who have the date of birth and time of birth horoscopes as the same, and I find the pattern of extremeness in them, and they have a difficulty in companionships and a difficulty in areas of long-term commitments to relationships as well, because during the extreme downness of these horoscopes, they will have the ability to break off very easily. So the reason is that George Michael's date of birth and time of birth both fell in Cancer, and when they came to the ages of 53 and 54, it's a very short cycle, a 2-year cycle. Now, generally speaking, if you listening to me are born in the date of birth and that comes under Cancer, or in your time of birth under Cancer, they don't have to be the same. But you will find that the ages of 26 and 27 offered you problems, and so did the ages of 35 and 36 offer you problems, and so did the ages of 44 and 45 offered you problems. And then the test will be at the age of 53, 54, or 62 and 63. By test, I mean that these planets, when they are in their negative region, then they produce problems. And this is for a normal horoscope. If the horoscope, as George Michael's, has the same time of birth and same date of birth, zodiac sign, then everything becomes doubled. And of course, talents are also doubled. So George Michael talents comes from the planet Venus, comes from the planet Moon, and from Neptune. He understood the power of sounds. So the power of music was inborn with him. And he realized that the instruments which produce sounds, he knew how to manipulate these instruments. And that was basically his strength. Born with a Neptune, Moon, and Venus in Cancer, I would say that had he gone on living, he would have turned quite religious, as the guardians of old age in his horoscope would have moved him towards religiousness. He would have gone to the extreme of religiousness. But well, I now understand why George Michael had a mountain to climb at the ages of 53 and 54. If you should find out for yourself whether your date of birth and your time of birth, zodiac signs are the same. Don't panic. It's not always the extreme badness we see. It can be the extreme goodness of fame and recognition and enjoying yourself in life and having great companionships and having a great partnerships and things like that as well. So don't get too worried if you find that your date of birth and time of birth are the same zodiac signs. But then I would have to, if I had the chance, to explain to you the extremeness and of good and bad. Now, the Moon and the Mars are seen as extremes in George Michael's horoscope. So the moodiness will move to aggression, the greatness will move to depression, and vice versa. Okay? And that's my reason why I feel that Michael George was trapped at his age of 53 because of that. Thank you. Goodbye.